Welcome back to the Game Plan podcast, where we decode sport, performance, and the stories that shape champions. Today, we've got two brilliant minds of the game because it brings together the duality of the sport, the grind on the field and the science behind it. Joining me is Max Holden, a professional cricketer and a top-order bat. Along with him is Darren Veness, an elite strength and conditioning coach whose work behind the scenes fuels the physical and mental engine of athletes at the highest level. From tactical preparation to mental fortitude and data-driven training, we will dive into what it really takes to build a high-performance ecosystem and how the Desert Vipers are redefining excellence on and off the pitch. So grab your headphones and let's step into the locker room of elite sport. Welcome back to the Game Plan podcast, where we continue to explore stories of grit, strategy, sport, and everything that is got to do with the game of play. Today, I've got two phenomenal guests, not one, but two, for the first time on the Game Plan podcast. Please welcome from the cricket crease onto the podcast mic, Max Holden, top order batter for the Desert Vipers, and the mind behind the muscle, Darren Veness, the strength and conditioning coach for the Desert Vipers. Gentlemen, welcome to the Game Plan.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So I'm going to ask the first question to the both of you, of course. And I often ask this question for any athlete who comes and takes a seat here on the podcast. Why cricket?
Go first. Yeah, for me, I loved all sport when I was young. My dad was a PE teacher back in the UK, and he sort of transmitted his love for sport onto me from an early age, and cricket was one of them. Football, tennis, you name it. I tried to play as a youngster. I think that's really important for young people to try and play as many sports as possible. Cricket probably actually wasn't my first love. I used to dream of being a footballer, but soon realised I wasn't going to be good enough for that. But I just joined the local cricket club with a few of my best mates from back home in Cambridge, and from my very first net session, sort of loved it. Loved being part of a team. Love the feeling of batting and trying to score runs, and probably from the age of 10 it was my dream to become a professional cricketer. So obviously took a lot of hard work and dedication to get there, but I always loved every sport, and definitely got that passion for cricket from a very early age, and very lucky to now have it as a career.
Max, honestly, it's a delight to watch you on the pitch, as always. Darren, I'll correct that, Des. Yeah. And I know that's how you go. That's how you like it. You're the mind behind the muscle. For you, for someone who comes from a strength and conditioning background, you had plenty of different opportunities, whether it was football, tennis, cricket, quite literally any sport. Why cricket?
Probably if we go back to the early 90s, got to know a guy called Dermot Reeve. At the time, he was captain of Warwickshire when they were absolutely dominating English cricket. The overseas players at the time were Alan Donald, bowling outrageous speed, and Brian Lara. So it sums up the standard of the team that was operating at the time. Then they were winning everything. And I got to know Derm, and he asked me, we just got into conversations initially about what I thought about the game of cricket. Our conversations just kept going. He made the decision to retire and took a head coach role down at Somerset. And back in the mid-90s, he asked me, would I come down? So I signed, back in 96, I signed a 3-year deal with Somerset. And this is season 30 now. So the first 3 went okay, it's fair to say. And to be honest, from an S&C perspective, cricket is definitely an interesting one. You already said, about the muscle, and S&C is often seen with regards to like muscle building and hypertrophy and all those connotations. But the quirky thing about cricket is that for every kilo of mass that you could potentially add, there's a huge physiological cost to that, because we deal with significant amounts of ground reaction forces. So my world is actually a little bit different from potentially many other S&C practitioners, where I've got to really try and squeeze the most out of what I've got before I even consider changing the physiology of the athlete that's with me. So all of those variables that come with cricket, plus the nature of the game itself, how the game's evolved in my time, it's phenomenal. It's so cool. It's such an interesting game, and the franchise world that Max and I live in now as well. It's evolving at an even faster rate, and it's constantly evolving. So it's constantly interesting. Why would you leave it?
Well, I do agree with you. I fell in love with the game a few years ago, and I'm still falling in love every single day. Every time I watch it, and every time we're down in the field. You mentioned something very, very interesting about it being such a physiological aspect of the game as well. And just to come to that, a lot of people do have that mindset, and they said, "Oh, why do you like cricket so much?" And I've had people come around and tell me, "It's such a slow game. It goes over the hours and etc. etc. It shouldn't be taking a lot of your energy." A lot of people have that mindset. I'm sure, Max, as a young player yourself, you would have come across some of those, taboos saying, "It's a slow game. Why would you? It's not fast paced. It's not quick." How do you fall in love with it? And you've played, under 19 England. You've played a lot of county cricket. How has your growth through these different systems been? And with all of these peoples with different mindset, because you did say you were exposed to other sports as well while you were growing up.
Yeah, I think every team you play in every environment obviously adds something different. I think obviously one of the great things about cricket is the different formats you play. Particularly grow up in England playing a lot of county cricket. Obviously you've got your 4-day games, 50-over cricket, T20 and the 100. So they all have different challenges and different environments you go in. And I think the massive thing is every new environment you go into, try and learn as much as you can, whether it's here with the Vipers or back home. There's so many people around you to pick their brains and learn as much as you can. And like you said, that almost brings that love for cricket more and more, because you see different people, get to meet different people, be part of a team, which is one of the most, like I said, one of the most attractive things about cricket, as opposed to individual sports is, one man or woman doesn't make a team. You have to really work together, particularly batting in a partnership. It's you and the guy at the other end against 11. So you've got to be really united. I guess that love for cricket comes from all different people you play with and against, really. So it's something really special, especially the amount of cricket we play in the UK back home. There's so many different experiences you get, and hopefully it benefits you in your sporting career, and also later in life having all those different experiences and learnings thrust upon you.
I know, Max, you've had one amazing journey with the sport, and we are going to talk a little bit more about that. But to come back to strength and conditioning, and for all our viewers who would be watching us, how about we break that down a little bit and talk to them about strength and conditioning being, or performance coaching, the most commonly used word, being not just about gym reps or everything that is physical. Can you tell us what is strength and conditioning for, say, a 12-year-old athlete who is just trying to understand sport or wants to play professional sport, and how important S&C is?
Great question. I think if we look at the very fundamentals of human movement and general athleticism, it's being able to just function at either a moderate level, intermediate level, or at the highest level. And if we're talking about a 12-year-old, I think, especially these days, there's so much time being spent relatively sedentary compared to, obviously, back in the day when I was a youngster, where there was so much more expectation to be out and about doing different things, not necessarily sport, but just generally being out and about and being mobile, moving. So I think having the physical capacity to just express yourself as a 12-year-old and being able to do whatever you wanted to do, I think that's a great option. And if you've got these youngsters that are looking at particularly our sport and looking at the athleticism that's expected in the shorter formats of the game and in the franchise world now, I love the idea of these youngsters seeing what's being done now and actually looking at it, not only thinking, I can do that, but genuinely thinking, I can do more than that. And then the context of that for me as a practitioner is recognizing where the game is going. The last thing I want to be doing is reflecting on what I've done in the past and what cricket was in the past. And it's very easily done when you're surrounded by coaches who are always having conversations about their game, and you've got the game in front of you. I think the sensible thing to be doing is looking forward and prepping these youngsters for the game that's coming, because it, as we've already said, it's evolving at such a rate. It'd be fantastic to have these youngsters setting new bars relentlessly. So for me, see what's going on now and then look at it and think, how could you make it better?
Yeah, I do agree with you. Also, the approach to coaching generally in terms of the game has changed so much. If you go to any cricket club or you run down by any academy, we see that the youngsters, they're coached very differently now. Back in the day when I was learning the game, we didn't have a skill-based coach. I wished I had a skill-based coach. For the game performance, like you very rightly said, what can you do more? I know I can do this, but what is it that I could do more? And that exposure, especially to the youngsters, is so very important. As an S&C of top franchises, you work with so many across the globe, and you have a calendar full throughout the year. What does a day in a life look like for you? So let's say you wake up in the morning, 4 a.m. So, no, I'm just.
Sometimes I get a lie-in.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's rarely that bad. Pick a day. What are we talking? Are we talking match day? Are we talking training day?
Let's say training day.
Okay, deal. Realistically, bit of breakfast. Normally we're on tour, so let's take a training day here. Sensible thing to do, really. So sit down, breakfast with Nerm, our physio. The two of us, best buds, and we spend a lot of time in each other's pockets, figuring things out. We're always together, and that's absolutely the way I prefer to function. The medical and the physical collaboration is pivotal for me. So spending time with Nerm, just talking about the state of the squad, where they are physically, who's running hot, who needs a bit of extra work, who's a concern, who isn't, all of those things. Looking at the skill session that we've got lined up, whether it's, let's say, for example, match day -2. That's very different to match day -1 for me. It's my window to get some strength exposure into some of these guys and start that almost like that priming aspect of prep for the match. Priority is always skills. Then sit down, conversation with the coaches. The coaches that we work with, unbelievably forward thinking, unbelievably knowledgeable. So having those conversations helps shape your day as well, and seeing what they've got planned. But also you're looking through their eyes too. They see things a little bit differently to us, and they're picking up on things that we're not. So recognizing that helps shape your afternoon. And then off we go, skills practice. So good warm-up, fair bit of fun. There's a football game that we typically play. It's an educational one. There's always going to be some drama. Most of it, the one thing I will say is most of it is player-generated drama. Although I will hold my hands up and say from time to time, I haven't been the greatest referee in the game that we play. Sometimes that's deliberate, just to try and get some emotion going. And then off we go into the individual skills. So once we're prepped into the individual skills, and then it may be, for example, on a strength day, that's my gym window after the skills. Prioritize that, and then work on what the guys need for the day. So Max, for example, he's got his structure that we'll work through. If we have to modify for venue, we'll tinker with it a little bit, but pretty much we're good to go. As we get closer to the match, we'll be doing some speed work as well. Although I will say that the fixtures that we've had and the schedule that we've had so far in the ILT, I've tinkered with that a little bit and modified that. So now a lot of our speed work and our prep is done microdosed through match days as well. So pre-match speed drills.
Franchise cricket is very busy. It gets extremely tight schedules. You're in one league today, 2 days out, you're in another league, and it's busy. It's very, very busy. Max, you've been with the Vipers 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. But you've been part of the ILT20 format for 3 years. So you did play for a different franchise earlier. How is it different being part of the Vipers versus part of any other franchise? And you play so much franchise cricket across the globe.
Yeah, I think the Vipers is a pretty unique franchise in many ways, and I know speaking to other players who've played even more franchise cricket than me, I think it's quite unique in the sense that the level of care they have for every single player and staff member is through the roof. I think their philosophy is you leave the month or month and a half, you'll hear a better person and player than when you arrive, really. And I think whether you're the star player of the team or you're on the bench, they take a massive level of care in improving you. Whereas I feel like some franchise, you're almost there, you've got to do a job and perform, and then you move on to the next team. Whereas here, there seems to be a structure in place where they see you as part of the franchise for a period of time, and it's a real sort of family feel. Even the way they look after teams, family members and partners who come over, it's a really sort of united group, and I think that's one of the reasons they've been so successful. I think they've won the most games in ILT20 history, and there's no coincidence in that. And there's a lot of work, whether it be with Daz and the strength side of things. I remember sitting down with Daz, this time last year at the start of the trip, thinking, right, you're here for a month, how are we going to get better in this period of time from a physical point of view? And then also Daz is often checking in, through the year, seeing how you're going and monitoring that side of things. So it's not just a case of you're here for a month and you go somewhere else. It almost feels like, you're a Vipers player all year round, and they have that extra level of care and support to all areas of your game and your needs to help you improve. And I think that's massively appreciated from me and the other players, because I think they know that's not always the case in other environments, and it makes you really sort of motivated to do well and perform for them on the pitch.
No, of course, Max, and it's really great to see the Vipers do so well this season. Match after match after match. Of course, we as athletes, we are always prepared for a setback. I think that's the first thing that we think about. Yeah, what if it doesn't go our way today? But we know for a fact that we're going to overcome that. And, a lot of the mental strength gets tested at that point. And, you mentioned that it's just not physical. It's got to do a lot with, the mental aspect of it. Does one think about working in a T20 environment? You've been across different environments. Test, one-day internationals, T20s, of course. T10?
No,
not
100.
yet. 100, yes, of course,
Yeah.
That's a very different format. What's the most surprising aspect in the T20 environment for you, particularly with the Vipers?
The intensity. The one thing that has been obvious with how we're going about our business is, the intensity that is relentless. So that absolutely has to be managed. You're looking at that, and there's been no drop off, has there? Every game, despite a congested schedule, because the format can only run for a period of time, we've got to get our matches in. Every single match, the boys are just coming at it, fully invested in winning the game. And the real positive for me is seeing from that cognitive side, from that mental side, how focused they've been all the way through. So even when we've had our backs against the wall, and even when an outsider might be looking at the scorecard and going, if they drag that back from here, wow, it'll be unbelievable. And then a couple of times already we have done exactly that. So we've been relentless in that belief. So for me, the biggest surprise is, I can't say it's not that much of a surprise. I've watched the boys prep, but the biggest thing that puts a smile on my face is that never say die attitude that you don't always see. You don't always see that. So the fact that the boys are so invested in the franchise, it's more than just a franchise. The guys see it. We're a team, we're a unit, and it's on all the way through till the last ball. And we've had 2 scenarios at the very least where it really has been down to the last ball, hasn't
Yeah.
We've had some nail-biting finishes. Honestly, I couldn't sit up on my seat. I had to be at the edge of my seat. But thank you for all that entertainment and that cricketing action, isn't it? Max, over a period of time, you've played different formats, especially with the Middlesex connection that you have. You played for the Middlesex County. How do you think your training has evolved and changed over the years? Now that we are very popularly in the much shorter formats, and the new format that's coming up in 2026, the 80 over format, there's been a bit
of a chatter about. So it's going to be more like a one-day test match. So they'll play 80 overs, so it's 20, 20, 20, and 20. So, you come out, play 20 overs, and you switch over, play 20 overs. So it's just going to be like a one-day sort of a test match that you play in a day. How do you think your training would change?
Yeah, it's probably changed quite a lot over the years, really. I think, growing up through academies and everything in the UK, I've always valued hard work, as almost one of the most important things in an athlete, and I still believe that, but I think now I probably train a little bit smarter. I think I've realised that it's not always volume that's the most important thing. I think as a youngster, you always think, got to do more to achieve your goals, and certainly hard work and that dedication is a massive, I guess, part that's got me to the place I'm in now. But I think as I've got a little bit older and more aware of what I need to do to be successful, I think it's not always the amount of time you're at the training ground or the amount of balls you hit in practice. It's the how smart you are and what you're trying to achieve in each session, and that intensity that Daz touched on. You almost rather be there for an hour or two and then be really intense in what you're trying to get out of each session, whether that be in the gym or the nets in the training ground with your skills, rather than being there for 4 hours and almost just going through the motions. And I think especially in T20 and short form cricket, you have to be at that really intense level when it comes to game time. You have to be mentally fresh and focused, and physically as well. So I think almost treat each session, you're just there for a short time, but I'm going to get the absolute maximum myself out each and every day. And I think that's how you improve. But I think obviously it's easier now. I'm a little bit older and more experienced in my game. I think when I was youngster, I just thought, bat and bat and bat, and that's the way to get better. And I certainly see a lot of young players still doing that. And obviously it's great they have that appetite to work hard and learn. But I think more experienced players will realise what they need to do to get themselves ready for each game. And hopefully I'm learning that a bit better as I've got older.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow on from what you just said there. I mean, the one thing that has been obvious as I've watched sometimes from afar and sometimes from right in front of me how your prep's evolved. The one thing that you mentioned there, that you know what you need to work on. But the one thing that I would say, and Max typifies a lot of the younger guys, is they're also absolutely looking forward. One of the conversations that we've had in the past is, where do you want to be in 3 years? I'm asking that question because that helps me set my targets and where my priorities are, because again, I've only got a finite window to work with Max, even though we're keeping in touch through the rest of the year. But the one thing that stands out is your willingness to look forward and to look for new things. It's not just, I know how to prep myself. I've heard that many times in the past, where people get almost like stuck in a rut and they're just, this is my prep, this is what I do. Max has been involved in a piece of PhD research on power hitting. Nice. And that for me, it kind of, and we've had many conversations about that and where we can move that forward. And that typifies a lot of the guys now, you especially, but quite a few of the guys are looking forward and they're trying to evolve their game at a rapid rate. So I didn't want to leave it with you just saying, I kind of know what I need. I'm like, nah, you're better than that, to be fair, mate. He's absolutely, a lot of the guys, Max in particular, eyes moving forward. And the one thing that's evolved from my side of things, I look at the availability of the hardware these days and the software. I think it's fantastic that a lot of the guys are using it, but also not overly focused on it. They're not absolutely looking at the Whoop or the Aura Ring or the testing materials are available. But they're not so focused on the digital technology, but they're using it as something to support their progression. So wanted to just have a little nod there, mate.
Yeah, I like it.
Daz, you mentioned something very interesting about players looking at softwares, using data, using testing equipment, and using all the other equipment that's now available to us. Not as much, so it's more like a 50-50 balance where they use the equipment 50%, they use whatever is manual data. That's how we identify it as 50%. What can you tell me about player readiness or, return to play, especially when they're coming off an injury or coming off very heavy workload? What sort of data or testing tools do you trust the most? Has there been any very interesting or unexpected insight that has surprised you in the form?
The most reliable data collection tool is the athlete. It's always going to be the player. You can absolutely look at the hard data that's in front of you, whether it's GPS or counter movement jump numbers for player readiness and muscular function and things like that. But ultimately, I would always, whether it's an old school approach, I don't think so, but I'd always go back to the player. You're never going to get a more accurate response than having a conversation with a player about their readiness. If they're used to, especially if they're used to, having conversations about RPEs and things like that. So 1 out of 10, how are you looking? Between 1 and 10, how good was your sleep last night? How many hours did you sleep? How hard was yesterday on a scale of 1 to 10? Those simple questions, they'll often give you just as much depth as the hard data that you're collecting from other tools. So I agree with your 50-50 approach. I would always make sure that the first conversation is with the player and see where they're gauging it, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to make that decision on how hard to go, or yes, I am ultimately available for selection, things like that. And the rest of it is just building a picture, and it's taking away more of the grey areas, and you're trying to put a little bit more colour in it and figure out how to go and come up with a joint decision.
We talk so much about physical readiness and physiological readiness, etc. What we often don't give a lot of attention is to mental readiness. Max, with the amount of cricket that you play throughout the year, what does your mental readiness look like every single day? I have to get up today, got to get my bag on, I have to walk out the door, and I have to go, and I have got to perform to the expectation, because that is mental pressure. It's got nothing to do with your physical skill. It's got nothing to do with the doubts, nothing at all, but it's got a lot to do with your mental pressure. What is your mental readiness when you're going towards and going for a match?
Yeah, again, I think it's something that's come with experience. I think as a young athlete, and I see a lot with young people coming into the team now. I think it's something that is a challenge. I think the pressures of a professional sport are always going to be there, and I think all athletes have had times when they've maybe not been in the best place they can be. And I think through experience and individuals learning the best way to cope with everything going on around them, it often improves over time. And I think the thing with I guess sports people, fans and people watching from the outside don't understand always that they're normal people. They've got everyday problems going on in their lives, or anything could have been happening. But then you've got to go out on the day and perform to the best of your ability, really. So I think now I've got a pretty simple routine I go through on game day, and then try and do similar things. Whether that's getting away from the game, go for a walk. Not thinking too much about the game in the sort of hours leading up to it, and then when it's time to switch on, sort of going through the process in warm-ups and everything like that to get yourself in a mentally ready to go out and to perform to the best of your ability, really. But as I said, it's something I've probably learned over a period of time. And I know as a young player, I felt quite a lot of pressure of expectation. And I remember, even being in England 19s and stuff like that, there was a lot of things, I guess, said about me, I could be this, could be that. And I sort of almost got a bit overawed by it all, and had times when I found that difficult, really. So as I've got older, I've become a bit more level and realised that, failure is part of life and part of sport, and you've got to sort of roll with the punches sometimes and accept it's not always going to be your day, and almost be able to park games, even if you do well, sort of move on through it and, not think about it too much once it's gone, and move on to the next thing you can control, because particularly as a batsman, you end up failing more times than you succeed. So if you sort of, let every bad performance get to you, it can sort of spiral and things like that, really. So I think, that acceptance that it's part of the game, failure, and being able to switch off and focus on what you can control is really, really important. But those sort of hours leading up to games is how I try and get myself mentally ready to go out there and be as focused as I can to perform to the best of my ability.
I think there's another prep side to that, and the one thing our coaching staff are ridiculously good at and unbelievably talented at, because of their high level of operation, is our skills prep. You look at our skills prep, and it's very context specific. So there's always a context, there's always a scenario to the prep. It's never, we haven't got time for aimless prep or excessive volume. So it's always very targeted, but it's also, dialed into what you're going to be exposed to on a match day. So if you look at how they've prepped in that context on a match day, when there's all the other potential for anxiety, all the other potential for stalling, what you've got is the actual physical thing that you've done. It's not the first time you've been exposed to it, whether that's in the nets or the bowlers working with Azure or fielding with Helmo or anything like that. You've already been exposed to that situation, and I think dialing into that and how our skills coaches look at addressing each potential scenario and making sure that every time the boys walk on the park, it's not the first time that they've been exposed to that context. I think that in itself lowers the anxiety of that situation and helps them deal with it and roll with it and flow into the next one. And then you can forget about all the other bits and pieces. You can forget about the noise or what's going on at the other end or how the opposition are performing. So I think that's another massive part to it.
Yeah, and I do believe that it's, when we talk about workload management, we're also talking about mental workload management, isn't it? Because that's such an important aspect when it comes to a game, a busy schedule, one game after the other. Mental workload management is as important. Tell us about one myth, and this is to the both of you, about performance training or player prep that you wish would just disappear. So one myth about player prep, performance training, that you think would just disappear. Something that you think this should not exist.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think I touched on it earlier. I think that, volume equals, performance output. I think that's, something I said, I've learned. I think that's one thing that, I guess a lot of young athletes think, the more I do, the better I'll be. But I think, as Dad said, that specific type of training is what's going to get you to the next level, improving, rather than just, volume more and more.
Okay. Des?
I'm glad you had enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, okay.
But you're looking at the performance training side, remember? That's player prep.
Yeah, all right, okay.
And I'll share mine as well.
All right, okay. Here's my myth. Ladder drills make you fast. No, they don't. You can get some lovely fast feet and it's fantastic, but I'd love to see the end of the speed ladders. They don't make you fast.
Yeah.
Proper application of forces makes you fast.
Yeah.
That said, caveat, there's time and a place for a ladder drill. Absolutely, no dramas, but I'm still seeing them overused.
Do you know while we were growing up, you remember those semicircle slip catches?
Yeah.
The ones that they get off the edge of the bat, and
The-
then you're standing in a semicircle, you're taking those catches. That needs to go.
That
Needs to go. That really does. Not only does it injure you, on a cold winter morning, you don't want to take the catches off the bat. That's going to bruise your palms.
Where you sitting with that, Maxie?
Yeah, no, I used to. Also, it's not good for slip catch there because it always the thing about slip catches is you don't know when the ball's going to come. Whereas all those slip drills, it's so easy in practice because you know it's coming. But then you can't sort of prep for that sudden unexpected edge. So that can go as well.
I don't mind them off the board.
Right, okay.
But I have a problem when they're in the semicircle. I don't think they're helping.
Right.
That needs to go.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Just
That's it then, they're in the bin.
Just my opinion, that really, really needs to go. Right. To the both of you again. What's one ritual or quirky routine in the team gym or on game day that we wouldn't know about, that we don't know about, the viewers don't know about? I think I do know one, but what's that one routine that you guys do as a team that nobody knows about?
Come on, Charvi, what's your one?
No. I want you. The question. I asked the question.
All right, okay.
I get the answer.
Daz is always on tunes. That's the start on the team bus. We got a song we always play. As we get off the bus, there's a nice sort of pre-game ritual that we know we've been successful when Daz has played that in the past. But I think I guess sports people have their own unique sort of little superstitions or things they do. Even silly things. I always have to tap my bat 4 times before I face the ball and stuff like that, silly things which obviously don't make a difference. But I must have done it once and done well and thought that was the secret. But I think everyone's got their own little weird things they like to do. Some people won't say what they are and things that, I think that's the thing with sport is something you could do one thing and you think, oh, that's the answer. But obviously it's not. But everyone's got, little superstitions. But I like Daz on tunes. I think everyone's gets the boys going.
I've seen that when you come off the bus,
You've heard that?
Yeah.
You've heard the tune then?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've also seen that little team song that's been going on in the dressing room where you all get in a little bit of a huddle and it's there, the script, and you guys all get singing, and that's quite nice. That's very interesting that you have all the boys to come together and have a little sing before getting onto the field.
It's a nice tradition after wins. I think that's also like one thing about making it like that feel like you're part of something. And I know a lot of like counties only back home have like a team song and stuff like that. So it's a really nice thing that I think Helmo and Daz sort of helped create last year, and it sort of feels like you're coming back to something when you then get a win again. So it's a nice little after game ritual we have. Yeah,
that's very nice. See, that's the one that I've seen.
Right. Okay, that's where you were going with this.
That's where I was going. Of course, I was going with that. Right now, it's time for a rapid fire round for both of you. So what I'm going to do is maybe you want to get ready. Daz is
already
already and get up. So what I will do is I'll ask one question each, and then there are going to be 2 questions that are going to be directed to the 2 of you. So ideally more like a buzzer on who answers first. And then of course we'll take the other person's answer as well, but just as a question that will go to, one each, right?
Quick fire buzzer round.
Right. So let's start with Max. Toughest bowler you faced?
I'd say Jimmy Anderson. I think in the UK, particularly in red ball sort of 4-day cricket when it's swinging around, I think he's been the best English bowler we ever had, really. So facing him in county cricket a few times, and particularly at Lords, he bowls unbelievably well there. So faced him a few times. He's got me out a couple, and he likes a few words as well. So it's never a nice experience. Coming up against him, but obviously he's been the best to ever do it in the UK. So I'd probably say he was the guy who gave me the most challenges.
I do agree. He is my favorite. Daz, favorite recovery tool?
Sleep.
Interesting. Max, your go-to cheat meal?
Nando's, I'd say. I think it's very popular in the UK, particularly on county away trips. And it's not actually, I don't think it's that unhealthy, is it? But I'd say Nando's.
It's a cheat meal. It doesn't have to be healthy. Yeah. So that's fine. Daz, if not strength and conditioning, what career? Did I just put you on the spot there?
Absolutely. Here's a curveball. DJ. Go on.
I can see that.
I thought you were going to say something different. Never mind. That's all right. Max, you did talk about superstitions, but this is a before one. So one superstition before a match.
I have to listen to the same song before I leave the room or my house back home. Because I listened to it once and then I got 100 an hour after. So so since then I have to listen to the same song before I leave my hotel room or my flat back home. So it's funny.
Is that song got to stay a secret?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Daz, the one athlete you'd love to work with, but you haven't worked with yet.
Okay. Mr. Virat Kohli.
Interesting. When you do that, can you call me? I'll come by. I'll shadow you. I'm not an SNC, but I'll shadow you.
Fine, deal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a deal. We sign on it.
Done.
Excellent. Now to the both of you. Who is the biggest prankster in the Vipers squad?
I wouldn't say it's a player. I'd say it's Coach Neil McKenzie. I'd say he's he's the batting coach. He gives me a lot of stick. Hopefully it's more of a love than a hate relationship. But he gets stuck into a lot of the boys, and I think he helps create like a really funny environment. Him and Helmer are a good double act as the fielding coach and the batting coach. They bring a lot of laughs to the team.
Yeah, I'm echoing that. Neil McKenzie, 100%, hands down.
And one word, so each one of you can take turns, to describe your 2025/2026 season goals.
Hopefully victorious for the trophy, I'd say, for the Vipers.
Yeah. Happy. I just want to be happy. Let's see what happiness comes from. Let's see where it comes from.
Guys, this has been, and I really wish we could keep going of course, we are in a bit of a crunch of time. But thank you from the entire team at Middlesex University, Dubai, from the bottom of our hearts, for making the time, coming here, spending the hours that you have, walking around with us, sitting down and having this conversation. Not only has it been enlightening, but we hope that we're able to do a 2.0 to this conversation very soon and have an even more in-depth conversation about sport, about life, and why sport is always something that's driving us. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much. Built on science, built on data, and most importantly, built on a whole lot of our heart. This is the Game Plan Podcast. We'll continue to bring more stories, and we've had such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much to the entire Desert Vipers team for making this happen, and we'll come to you very, very soon with more interesting stories.